Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome to round 4 of season 4 in the iRacing League Prototype Championship. We've been zigzagging our way across Europe and North America so far this championship. Is in Spa, Daytona, Le Mans, but for this round of the season we are here at Sebring International Raceway. My name is Sam Patrick, alongside me is Jack Cannan, John Robertson on the cameras, bringing you this broadcast live on Apex Racing TV. Jack, we have got another hour-long race for us tonight, and so far this season, particularly Daytona, was an absolute thrilling race. I'm hoping we're going to see more of the same this evening.
Yeah, I really hope so as well. Daytona was sort of the benchmark for the season so far, and I have high hopes for Sebring. I think it's a well-liked track mostly. It's very bumpy, very challenging, but also plenty of opportunities for slipstreaming and overtaking, especially Sunset. It's very, very wide, and as well, turn 1, if you're brave enough, it's very big, long corner, wide apex as well, but it sort of narrows up on the exit, so you have to be careful there. But I think it is going to be a good race. We've now, of course, with after the previous round, we've got championship fights now. As a result, we've got Daniel Civizalba on top 7 of the podium for the first time, and of course Pro-Am is getting ever closer. But as you can see, top of the LMP1 standings, Jack Wells, he's just being consistent doing the job, and he's out front.
Yes, and I forgot to look before this race whether or not he picked up an instant last time out at Le Mans. I don't think he did, which would mean that he's raced for 3 hours this season without an instant. Will probably be a bit tricky to repeat that here, because turn 1 very easy to pick up a 1x, and there's a few other places as well. But Wells so far, as you say, has just been super consistent with that 1 win, along with a couple of runner-up spots. Solberg in 2nd place, Loveridge in 3rd, Brown with his 2 wins. If you consider the drop score, he is in the lead of the championship, but you've got so many rounds to go that he has still got some catching up to do. Don't put him necessarily as the favourite. In the P2 Pro, Sirius Sabre, of course, had a fantastic win last time. Closes the gap to his teammate Daniel Kraft. Matej Burke and Alexander Lewitson haven't had a perfect season. You question Daytona whether they could have perhaps won if they hadn't have had a collision. They've got some catching up to do, and then you've also got Pigment up there in 5th position. And in the P2 AMS, Thomas Mork at the top. He has been fairly dominant so far this season. Morton Cathode was very unlucky. Apologies, Cathode was lucky. He was the lucky one last time out to take the race win. Shuri was the unlucky one. He was going to inherit the race win, but unfortunately got hit by Mork's stranded car and ended up having a poor result because of it. So still very much alive, that one, the top 3, most likely the favourites for the title in that category, as the drivers are currently out in qualifying, and we've got 6 more minutes to go, and well, it's quite tricky to see anything that's going on, Jack, because it is night time here at Sebring.
It is everyone's favourite time at Sebring, is the night time. So it's going to make it a little bit more trickier for the drivers, because it is very, as he mentioned, very easy to pick up 1Xs around here if you just dip a wheel over the curb slightly in places, and especially the run up towards Le Mans corner, the S section there, very easy to just use a little bit too much of the road to the left, and you can end up with a 1X and a very horrendous slowdown as well on the run down the Ullman Straight. So plenty to come. As you can see, it's actually Luis Araya who has already had a pole position this season, but it didn't exactly go well for him. But he is currently the only LMP1 out there at the moment. With time on the board. Daniel Kraft currently quickest in P2 Pro. A little bit wide there for Araya as well. That's what we're talking about, the exit curb right there. Very, very close. But how about P2 AM? Half a tenth between the top 3. It's currently Harvey Smith, I think that is. Harvey Smith up the top, 45.5. Thomas Mork on a just behind him, and then Morten Kafud in P3, Jake Shuri fourth as they come across the line for another lap there. Luis Araya, 37.333, first representative time on the board. Loki Brown, who dominated the field last time, comes across the line on 35.9. He was quickest in practice again, and well, let's see if he can carry the momentum forward. He's not quite as far in front of the field as he was in Le Mans, but he's certainly now on a championship drive to try and get himself back into there, and certainly another win will help his case.
Absolutely. And by the way, we have got a couple more P1s, but if anyone saw the race starts last time at Le Mans, didn't go very well, and a few drivers got penalties for that. And so there are a couple of drivers serving quali bans for this round of the championship. They would have also got penalty points as well. But Bill Helmson did not get a penalty point, so it's just Lane, in fact, who has got to serve a pit lane start out here tonight. And Bill Helmson crosses the line. He is in P3 at the moment, but Kraft's looking extremely good at the top of the P2 Pros, half a second clear, albeit everyone is out on track at the moment. Pigmans is the one driver who has not set a time yet, and he is just approaching it right now. And well, this will surely put him up the standings, or is it just going to be a lap time? It does put him up the standings to 8th place in the Pros, and I think that is 12th place in the P2s overall. So Pigman's there, 1.2 seconds off, not a whole way off, but shows how close this LMP2 field is tonight.
Yeah, it really is, and by the looks of it, I think the P2 AMs are going to be stars of the show again. Top 4 under a tenth is the gap at the moment between the whole lot of them. All of them on a 45.5 or 0.6. Jake Shuri 4/10 off him. Surely he can get himself up a little bit. Daniel Kraft on a 44.602. He doesn't quite improve, but still, he still sits top. 44.7 for Sivi Zabo, and Smith goes quicker again. 45.231. That's a good lap there from Smith. That would have put him in the pecking order in P2 Pro. Tim Perry goes 3rd in P2 Pro as we say that. Burke goes 5th fastest at the moment as we come towards the end of qualifying. Still pretty close, but it's interesting to see in the P2 AM, Smith straight out of the box is the quickest man in the P2 AM category, as Ibram pops into 3rd as well. So the P2s, as always around Sebring, they are close. It's going to be a slipstream fest, I think, and I think it's going to be something like what we saw in Daytona. Hopefully, is that everyone seems to be much closer together in the P2s today.
Yes, I think that's a good shout in that category. As Shuri moves up into P3, so that's so close, isn't it? Look at that. That's 3/100ths of a second separating second down to 5th in the P2 AM. So a good effort there from Shuri to improve his time. Of course, he wants to beat Mork, who's currently championship leader. Smith, I think, joined after round 1. I don't think he took part at Le Mans either. Or he was quite far down at Le Mans. But he's certainly arrived here at Sebring. Could still win the title. 9-round championship this. But he would he'd need probably problems for the others. Brown just hot lapping here, as I think he will do for the entire hour-long race. Can he improve anymore? He can. He takes a couple of tenths to a second off. Brown, multiple World Championship holder around a few circuits, as far as I am aware, in the Audi. So he's very tricky to beat. Araya getting within a second of him, honestly, is a good effort there from the Norwegian, who has had a fairly strong start to the season. And of course, with our championship leader not around tonight, opportunities for Araya to really cut that gap down, along with Brown, of course, as well. As Wilhelmsen crossing the line. We've also got Kofod approaching line. Kofod playing some good sectors in here. This could trouble the top positions in the AMS. No, it's not. It was quite a bit off in the end, so Kofod just remaining in 4th position.
Yeah, and I think that'll be all the times in. So once again, it's Lucky Brown on pole in the P1 category, but that is impressive from Lewis Araya, considering how quick Lucky Brown is within a second of him. Of course, Lucky Brown, as you mentioned, is the world record holder around Le Mans, and I think he could very well be around Sebring as well. But another pole position, a good chance for him to get his championship back underway. And there is 4 drivers on the grid. Josh Lane, even though he's serving a quali ban, he's still starting on the second row of the grid, which I think is good for him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all good news for Josh Lane. So yeah, he'll be starting P4 there ahead of him. Brown, Araya, and Wilhelmsen. Top of the P2 pros, Daniel Kraft, who looks very strong tonight. Can his teammate Siri Sabe beat him this evening? We've got the long pace lap tonight, so buckle in, guys. It's going to be a while till we get to the race start. James Sebring, what a qualifying for him. That's I think his best qualifying of the season. I think that's the first time he's come out on top of his Apex Tech Racing teammates, so that's a very good effort there from the British driver. He's ahead of his fellow countryman Tim Perry in 8th place, former P2 AM champion, of course, in this series. Then it's Jackie Lotterman, Harley Smith, top of the AMs. I think that's his first pole position in the amateur category this season. Then it's Matthias Burke, who's got a little bit of catching up to do, but I wouldn't rule out Burke off the race win even. Then it's Grisette in 12th place. Then it's Mork Shuri, who of course is 2nd place in the AMS. Morton Kofod, Sorensen, Brian Pigmans, Alexander Loritzen, Justus Marks, and Paul Klist there, who I think... no, Klist is not serving a pit lane start, to be fair, but he will still be starting from the back for this race. As we've got the long old formation lap. Apologies, guys, for doing the long formation lap. I would have put it to the short one because you line up on the back straight instead. But instead we get to have a nice track guide of this Sebring circuit as they coast around at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's actually not often you get the long pace lap around Sebring, so we get a chance to sort of chill out for a bit. The P1s and P2s will separate, of course. But I think I am feeling a lot of the Daytona vibes of this because you've got, in the P2s especially, you've got the Pro Sim Esports guys up the front with the rest of the Apex Tech drivers behind as well. We remember how that fight went in Daytona, so I think that's going to be interesting to watch as almost in complete sequence there. It was very nice to watch Lucky Brown and Lewis Araya warming the tyres up and trying to get some heat in the brakes and such as they head round this circuit. So I'm interested to see Lucky Brown, of course, with Jack Wells not here. He's got a big chance to get himself back in the championship fight, as well as does Lewis Araya and the others as well. They've got a big opportunity to jump up and make the title fight very, very close going into these the next kind of half of the season. I suppose you could call this nearly the halfway point of the season. And you can see familiar sight, Daniel Kraft, Daniel Civisalba up the front. But there is a big old gaggle of Apex Tech cars up behind them. You can see there, just behind them. So I think that's going to be a very, very interesting fight. There's one that belongs to James Ibram directly behind him then. They're almost in a complete line. Yeah, there's 3 Apex Tech cars in a line right behind the Pure Sim Esports guys up the front. So should be fun to watch. But I think it's impressive, I suppose, to see Harley Smith, right in there in the pros. I think he could maybe cause an upset today.
Yeah, he certainly could. And of course, reminder once again to any new viewers, I think sometimes the drivers forget this as well, because it's not the case with all series, but the drivers do score points for their overall position in their car class. So the pros want to beat the AMs, and vice versa. There is an interest in them doing that. So Smith beating some of the pros does really yield a fair few points. So there's very much a motivation for him to do that. By the way, there is the start zone tonight, and it is basically at where the pit wall starts. So watch out for the drivers to launch around the pit wall area, and then yeah, anywhere between that and the start-finish line is where they will be able to launch for this race. And yeah, should be hopefully will be zero problems, unlike last week when it comes to that one. And shout out as well to one of our sponsors, SDK Gaming, for providing our overlay. You'll see it flash up onto the screen just as we go to the green flag, I'm sure. And of course, they provide all the intervals, all the battle boxes, all the fantastic overlay elements, and our live timing as well, which we have in the comms box, which really does let us know exactly what is going on out on circuit. And of course, you can open up a web page as well with the live timing. Click on one of the links in the description below. Click on that, opens up a web page, and you can see what the gaps are between the drivers, their lap times, their best lap times, their pit stop times as well. All very useful stuff. So thanks to SDK Gaming for also providing some of the prizes as well for the top pros, for the top teams and drivers in this championship. So the pace car is just coming round, and once the pit wall starts, the drivers are allowed to start. And here's Lockie Brown once again launching us away here at Sebring. And he has a healthy lead straight away. Behind him, Araya being able to keep behind Wilhelmsen. What is going to happen at the top of the P2s? It's Kraft leading us away. He waited a while to put his foot down, but once he did, he seemed to get a very good launch. He's ahead of his teammate Susabe. Ibram trying to go up the inside. I think Ibram just holding off Perry there, and they're already into single file, heading into turn 2, dancing in and out. Oh, there's contact there, and that's going to be into the middle of the circuit potentially, and that is Tim Perry spinning around Harley Smith on the top of the AMS. A couple of other drivers getting contact as well. Lotterman was involved in that, so I think that was about 5th, 6th and 7th in the P2s overall, all getting involved in a nasty instant right off the start.
Yeah, that's such a shame, isn't it? Right on the first lap. To be fair, that is such a tricky corner to get slowed down on lap number 1 with high fuel, cold tyres. And I think Tim Perry might have just slightly misjudged it, but of course we'll get a chance to maybe look at it again once we get round to begin another lap. We're going to get a look at it just about here. This was Wilhelmsen on lap number 1 through the first corner. And let's see what happened here. Unfortunately, I can't see it.
Well, we only had 4 LMP1s to start off with, and a couple of them have immediately made contact, and that is a shame, and that's one of the worries. And Wilhelmsen, I think, just having damage there and spinning off at the corner afterwards. He is back going though, Wilhelmsen, but I wonder if he'll have to come into the pits for a fast repair straight away on the first lap. And yeah, so Ryan managed to get through all of that, but Wilhelmsen and Lane getting involved, and that is so Ryan didn't get through that. He must have got some contact, but he's still powering along, not picking up his fast repair straight away, and he seems to be all right so far. But yeah, problems for Wilhelmsen, and then Lane also being set back as Kraft leads them into turn 1 on this lap 2. He's got his teammate right behind him. Good position for these guys. Wilhelmsen does come into the pit, and probably the biggest gainer on that first lap, Alexander Luritzen. He's up 9 places overall. I think that's 7 places in his car class.
Oh, just as you mention him.
Another one.
Oh dear, well it is another one, but not quite the way he'd want it. I think he collected the car in front of him, which actually I don't think was for position. Oh, it was Mork, it was, yeah. So he actually managed to collect the P2 AM leader, and now Jake Shuri, that is a big one, because Jake Shuri now leads that class, and of course Thomas Mork is the championship leader in the P2 AM, so that's an unfortunate incident there. Not Mork's fault by the looks of it, but we've only managed to make it about 2 laps and everything has happened in the meantime. But Jake Shuri somehow ended up now in the lead of his class. So now let's see. This is the earlier incident that we saw. You can watch for Tim Perry. He's going to dart out to the right-hand side, get on the brakes. Oh, he looked like he locked the rears, actually. going into that corner, and unfortunately Lauderman was victim of that as well. So in his attempt to avoid collecting the car in front, he actually took out 3 more by locking up the rears. And oh, there's another big one in the back. That's a collection with an LMP1. That's Josh Lane who's collected. Who is that? It's Cafode. So there's P2 Hams are really in the wars at the moment. Cafode collected by a P1, big damage on that car, and he's now unfortunately dropped further back in the class. What's going on today? This is really unusual stuff. Is Tim Perry now trying to get back up through the order, just getting in front of some of the AMs? He seems to has continued on, but Shuri, Sorensen, Mork is your top 3 in P2 AM after all of that. The one class that has actually not had too much happen to it, except for the Tim Perry incident, is the P2 pros who still have Kraft, Sabo, and Ibram at the front of it. So, well, that was an interesting lap or two, wasn't it?
Yes, very action-packed first 4 minutes. I could define the outcome of this race as well. That P2 Anfield, it's a shame because it feels like it's so competitive, but unfortunately many of them with incidents. Would be great to get a replay of that lane. I think Lane just misjudged it around a tricky part of the circuit where it quite narrows up, and of course making his way back through the order. Also may not have been blue flags because they're on the same lap as one another. So Lane, after picking up contact on that first lap, I think he had to come into the pit straight away. And well, he is still out there, is Lane. So here comes Lane, trying to get past Cafode. So he goes to the outside, and it's just the braking distance because the P1's so much more efficient on the braking, and I think that's just caught out Lane right there.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's especially tricky in that corner as well, where you can very easily get caught out, and yeah, really unfortunate. And to be fair, Lane got away quite lightly compared to Cafode, who went pretty hard into the barrier with a lot of damage. But that has ultimately given Jake Shuri the lead, as we now go to Wilhelmsen and Lane, who are together on the circuit now. This is for 3rd place, and Wilhelmsen trying to hang on to this position as best he can as they come now to begin their lap. At least they've all kept going. That's the main thing. And Loki Brown, though, be very happy that everything's happened behind him once again. 12 seconds in the lead now already, as we go back again to, this is Alexander Lauritsen in P6, and that is Jake Shuri, who is now battling him for position as Wilhelmsen comes into the pit lane again, probably with more damage or something along those lines. But Jake Shuri now, he's in a great position. He's got his championship rival down in 3rd, and is now battling with the pros. So this is even more crucial points for Shuri if he can get past here. It looks like he is going to be able to do that, and there's not really a fight put up nearly. He tries to go around the outside, switches to the inside for the next corner, late on the brakes, and Shuri will move up a position as a result of that. Manages to block off Lauritsen on the exit as well. Good driving from Jake Shuri, and this is going to help him definitely in his attempt to reclaim the lost ground from last week on Thomas Mork.
Yeah, good, really good stuff from Shuri so far. And he's continued to extend that gap, isn't he, over Sorensen? I think it was 8 seconds a couple of laps ago, but it's up to 10 seconds now. I think Mork might be matching him on pace. 46.97 that last time for Shuri. Mork, a couple of tenths of a second faster, but yeah, much quicker than Sorensen. Shuri now has the need to break the draft, and not too desperate, it seemed, there, Lauritsen, to stay in the draft. Pigman's now catching up to these two for Race Anywhere Sim Sports. As you can see, Kraft and Sirius Sabo exchanging fastest laps. 1 second between the two teammates so far. Looks a bit more competitive than it did in qualifying, with Kraft a couple of tenths of a second ahead. Sirius Sabo seems to be a match so far in this race. As we see, Lauritsen still trying to chase down the driver ahead. Ibram only just ahead of Matthias Burke. These two have been fairly close to one another for a while. I haven't seen Burke really get close enough for an overtake. They are teammates. Do you think it's time to get on the radio and switch these guys around? They're probably in a Discord together, Jack, but I don't know. I mean, what do you do in this situation? Because it doesn't seem like either of them can keep up with the top two. But, you know, if they want to get third and fourth, maybe it would be best for Ibram just to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, you have to wonder what they're thinking right now, because the gap is increasing to the guys in front, and well, if they start battling, they're going to lose time. So either that, or they're just going to do the occasional swap around, I suppose, on the straights or whatever, just to maintain the gap that they have over Grassetto as well. That's one they've got to watch behind as well. So let's see as they come on to the straight if there's going to be any sort of movement. I think there could be essentially here between Lauritsen and Shuri, still leading him around here as they come onto the straight. And here's the swap, I think it is indeed, as they come down towards Sunset Bend. It'll be Matthias Burke in front of his teammate and swapping around. No real fight put up right there, and they might see plenty of that today as well, as Shuri just staying in front of Lauritsen. Lauritsen, I think, just sticking with Shuri. They're very, very evenly matched on pace, so you can see right there. You can see Burke, as you can see, I think that is the right decision, because he is much closer on pace to the guys in front. You can see he's only about 2/10 off of them. So still, if you can use Burke, I suppose, to sort of punch a hole in the air, might still be, they're still firmly in with a shout here, especially when we come to pit stop phase.
Yes, yeah, and if you can save a couple of seconds during the pit stop by saving a bit of fuel, that can also help you significantly. Pigman's not quite applying the same pressure as I thought, but Lotsman is catching up to these guys, no doubt. A couple of Dutch drivers behind. See Clister just playing in a personal best laps. Mork now catching up to Sorensen for second position in the P2 AMS. I think that move is going to be done fairly quickly. 4/10 of a second quicker was Mork on that previous tour of the circuit. As you can see, the positions gained there for Lauritsen, albeit might be under pressure from a penalty, perhaps post-race, after that contact that he made with... I forget who it was actually now. On
Mork, wasn't it?
It was Mork, of course, on lap 3 or lap 2 of the race. Wow, he is ever so close. He's pretty much as close as he was on the previous lap. Got to try to stay close around this part of the circuit. Maybe a little bit of aero wake, but then of course you get the benefits of being so close to the car ahead with the slipstream. Both absolutely using all the space, all that curb. But Lauritsen, at least visually, down the first half of the straight, not gaining too much. Now the gap starts to come down. You can go for sorts of the mugging into the second part of Sunset Bend. Of course, he takes such a wide entry in. He can kind of sneak up the inside occasionally, but he did not want to go for that time, as Mork passes Sorensen. No surprise there, they are teammates, and Mork can now set off in his chase over Shuri.
Yeah, this is that was a crucial move for him now, chasing after his championship rival, crossing the line to begin another lap, and he sets a personal best on that lap as well. So still all is not lost for Thomas Mork. Of course, it is the championship is always like a pendulum. Shuri had the unlucky instant last week, and now Mork was the one who was collected. He's got 13 seconds though to make up to Shuri, which seems to be a very, very high mountain to climb. But again, all it takes is one small error, and there isn't a lot of runoff around here. It's all grass, and you know, when you get a P2 on the grass, it is very, very hard to get it back pointed in the right direction. So any little small lockup as well, it's easy to do that as well in certain corners and just end up in the tire barrier. As we see now, Josh Lane making his way through the traffic, coming up to the S's as well. This is a tricky place to catch in the S's as well, because it's you almost have to sit behind in most cases, because it just isn't wide enough, and then you need the run out of Le Mans onto the straight, and you got to pray that you get there before sunset Bend in most cases. And we'll see what happens here. There's Shuri still punching a hole in the air for Alexander Lauritsen at the front, and Shuri doing a great job at the head of the field here in P2 AM. Here comes Josh Lane up towards the first corner, should get by them before they get there, and it's going to be pretty tight actually as they get towards the end of the straight. The P1 not quite able to get there, and Lane now is going to actually have to try it on the brakes or something, but struggling to get through here is Josh Lane. He's going to have to use the hybrid boost try and get through here. Will be on the exit of the corner where the P1 will eat the P2 for breakfast. There it goes, and he should be clear for a bit now. But it's interesting to see. I wonder is Lane carrying some damage, because that Porsche is really struggling to get past these P2s.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think he may have just run out of boost around that part of the circuit, and once you lose that across the straight line speed, there isn't really any straight line advantage. So I think you might be right, because Lane has not come into the pits, and we did see him make contact on lap 1 of the race. So I am surprised that he hasn't had to come into the pits. About 4 seconds off the pace of this man, Lockie Brown. He is very experienced with this car check combo, I'm sure. There's not a whole lot of circuits, at least when it used to be ILMS. It seemed to be the same 12 circuits visited every single season in that championship. I think since we've had, you know, Hungaroring and Red Bull Ring and many other circuits, I guess Fuji now as well, I think there's a few more choices for the European Sprint Series to use. But either way, I'm sure this Sebring circuit is used probably 3 times a year or so out of the 4 seasons. So he continues to, so he'll be very comfortable with this. As here comes Lotzman. He's been catching up to these guys for a while, and there he goes on Pigments. That was very easy. And now he's got his teammate Luritzen ahead, and Luritzen has taken a while to try to get past Jake Shuri. I wonder if he'll give Lotzman a chance here, because Lotzman coming up fresh on these guys. Maybe he's fresh car in order to get past the amateur driver ahead, because at the moment Luritzen is having no luck.
No, absolutely, and Lauderman was, of course, collected in that early instance. We're getting a front row seat to the battle now. Shuri having to go defensive on Lauritsen as they come up to the right-hander. You can go around the outside here. It's quite tricky, but he's going to try it anyway. All the way around the outside. He's going to check up behind as well, and both of them are going to get through here. Great move from Lauritsen. Lauderman going to follow him through on the next part, and he may be Pigments as well, who tries to get around the outside into the next part of the corner. A little bit of a mistake on the exit for these as well, as Shuri now going to try bump draft through. He's going to fall behind, actually, as they all file past him in the end. 3 positions gone. Pigments, Lauderman and Lauritsen all getting past Jake Shuri in that one single exchange. And as you can see, courtesy of that battle, Mork has closed in. The gap is now 10.5 seconds. Well, it's actually even, I guess it's going up and down a little bit as Loki Brown gets past the traffic now. He's caught up to everybody and is now casually making his way past all the traffic, as Mork has actually made an error right as I mentioned him. Sorensen up to second and Mork going slowly, and I have a fear he might have had an impact with that barrier, Sam.
Yeah, let's see how far he's get it out. I assume he's hit the grass on the exit. Yep, classic one that. Ooh, and that was a big hit. I thought he may have hit as well, but I didn't think it would be that hard. Surely he is going to need to come into the pits. However, he's continued round. And I assume that's with the logic of, if you can get to the 25-minute mark, or even probably sooner than that, maybe 22 minutes, he could pit and then come and then get to the end of the race on a single tank of fuel. So that will be what Mork is waiting for, but he may be very slow out on circuit until that lap comes, because that was a heavy hit into the tyre barrier, which of course is a little bit softer than the concrete barriers, but can still inflict a lot of damage onto those Dallara LMP2 machines. Crosscar has absolutely no issues with it though. Still, the gap is only a second over his teammate, but Sirisabe is not quite close enough, Jack, to get the slipstream from Kraft. If he was maybe half a second behind, I'd be thinking, well, Sirisabe is basically ahead here, he'll be saving fuel. But from this distance back, he'll be getting a waft of it. I mean, you can see the gap closing down the straights, but it will be very minimal. I doubt he'll be able to go a lap further on fuel by this draft. No,
I don't think so, but they're working well together, as they always do. The fastest lap of the race for Kraft, and how about that 3,000th between the teammates on that lap? So they're absolutely bang on the money, evenly matched. They're almost a second quicker than anybody else out on the circuit right now, which is really impressive stuff from these two. But Daniel Craft doing a great job of managing at the gap at the moment out front, as you see, I think Josh Lane about to lap them. There he comes in the P1, coming through, and he gets past Sivi Zabo at the very least. He's going to have to get past the next car as well. Sivi Zabo going very deep though into that hairpin and lost about 0.4 of a second just by that small moment, and that is very easy to do. And you can see Lane really struggling in the sort of latter half of the straights to get in front of the P2s, and he does eventually do that, but Sivi Zabo, very easy mistake to make, to just overextend your braking a little bit into the hairpin, and winding all the lock on, and he started that lap at exactly a second, and he's now lost 0.6 of a second. And I'm looking as well, you can see Ibram is now getting right up on the back of Burke again. They're starting to work together again in third and fourth, and that'll be I think pretty easy for them. But we're getting up to 20 minutes gone in this race. Still a ways to go before we get to the pit stops, but now Daniel Craft has a little bit more breathing space, which is always nice. And Sivi Zabo can he's gonna struggle now to catch up, because they're so evenly matched on pace. He won't have the benefit of the draft to pull him along, but now he's gonna have to deal with hope that Loki Brown gets past him cleanly here, which he should do, into the next corner. And he is being patient because he's got a massive lead anyway, so he doesn't need to take any risks.
Yeah, he's not fighting over a couple of tenths of a second. If he was chasing down a driver a second ahead on the last lap, I think he would have gone for the overtake right there, but instead waits behind and gets him on that next straight. Really easy to overdrive this hairpin, like you were saying before. So Sabo running wide, very easy just to push it a little bit further every single lap. Your braking point, as Mork has got ahead of his teammate Sorensen again. But geez, 17.5 seconds. Mork is quick, but Shuri's also quick. So I doubt that gap will be coming down by the end of the race. Shame to see. Everyone is still running, by the way. Even Harley Smith, who had problems initially, he is still going out there. He should be able to beat Marks and Clist. I doubt he'll catch up to Cathode. There's also still battling out there. You can see Cathode 1 minute 15 behind. Smith about 1 minute 30 off the lead of the P2 AMS. You wonder where he would be, and many other drivers would be, if it weren't for those issues earlier on in the race. Lotzeman is onto the back of his teammate, and I wonder if we are getting ready for an overtake right here, because even though Luitzen is no longer being held up, he seems to still be slower. But how they have caught up to Grassetto ever so quickly, second faster on that last lap were the pair of them. Grassetto looks a bit of a sitting duck. It maybe goes to show just how much Shuri was holding up Luitzen over all those laps.
Yeah, it would seem that way, all right. But yeah, they are working together to bridge up that gap, which has worked well for them. And they're now going to swap into turn one. Lotterman past his teammate, and they now have a chance as Grassetto is wide and Lotterman is wide in turn one at the same time. And he would have just followed Grassetto's line into turn one, and that is a very, very easy mistake to make. And I can say, first-hand experience, that is how my Sebring ended this year, in that very, very wall on the inside on the exit of turn one after running wide. So it is they did well to hang on to it, but GT3 is not so easy to get back as it is. You can see Lawrenson just again a little bit deep into the hairpin. You can get away with it, but it does lose you a lot of momentum, as now you're going to see maybe another swap thinking about it. Lotterman not going to quite go for it this time. But little mistakes creeping in now, and thankfully they managed to save it in turn one. But Grassetto now has a little bit of breathing space before these guys can maybe try and catch up to us. They got to watch out for Pigments as well, who's not too far behind them, and they might be able to catch up to them. Tim Perry as well, working his way back into it very, very slowly but surely. He's getting up there, and we'll see how this works out as Lotterman It's up to the back of Lawrenson again, down towards Sunset Bend, having feeling to go defensive. A little bit of weaving going on as Grosseto trying to break the draft a little bit, but not excessively weaving, as Civi fast lap of the race, that time buying clean air. So he's still lapping well, Civi, and is doing a good job in clean air, and he has the opportunity to go for an undercut, and you'll be able to clearly see whether Kraft will dive in before him as well as they come into pit lane. Still a little ways to go before we see that, but these guys now fighting it out for P6 in class at the moment. Grosseto, I think, has now managed to settle in to his position. He's sitting just outside of the slipstream until they get through. But now Luis Araya, who's also having a very quiet race, he's making his way through to lap these guys coming down into the hairpin, all looking very well. And again, Lawrenson overdriving that hairpin, and it will be a case now of maybe some tyre wear coming in and those front tyres just scrubbing into the hairpin, and you get very easy to overdrive it into there and not have enough steering lock to get it back the other way. So still a ways to go. I think we're going to have another maybe 8 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes before we see the P2s come in, but we should see the P1s in a little bit sooner than that.
Yeah, I think the only P2 which might be in a bit earlier might be Mork because of that contact earlier on with the wall. He didn't come in on the last lap. I was sort of waiting for him to pit on that last lap. But his pace to be fair is still really good. And maybe you got to question the iRacing damage model there, which they've done good work on. And I think these cars have the new damage model. But he did go into a tyre wall at about 80 miles an hour, and he's lost maybe half a tenth of a second a lap. So yeah, I don't know what would happen in real life with that one. I don't watch much sports car racing. Maybe that makes you go faster. Maybe that's what iRacing have got wrong. But it is surprising that he is going quite so fast. It'd be great to have a chat with him post-race. You can see still 18 seconds between those two. Shuri with a 46.4 on that last lap. Mork, I think, just rounding Sunset Bend, now approaching the line. He was faster than that on the previous lap. This lap he does a 46.43, so yeah, he's closing in on the leader, so Mork having no problems out there, and maybe we won't see him come into the pits early, as Luritzen, again alongside Grosseto, overtaking tricky around this Sebring circuit. Not a big surprise, there isn't many big braking areas after a long straight. I know really got that hairpin that we just went through, but Sunset Bend, you really need to be fully alongside if you're going to go for a move by the end of the straight. So it's not an easy to overtake circuit, this one. And Luritzen is finding that absolutely right now, because remember, he was held up by Shuri for about 10 minutes earlier on. And now he's being held up by Grosseto as well. And of course, these guys might have the pace to catch up to Ibram and Burke if they get past quick. So it's really important that they pass. And of course, Lotzman will be kicking himself for not making that move down into turn one stick earlier on. But he is very close, and I think surely we are going to see a change of position between some of these three in the next few corners.
Yeah, looks like it coming down at the Sunset. Nobody brave enough to go for it. Lotterman has a little look, sweeps to the outside, looking for a little sweep back underneath the car in front. Not going to quite get there though. Daniel Croft with the fast lap of the race on the previous lap down towards turn one. They're going to have to negotiate past the lapped P2 as there's the move from Lawrenson up the inside. That is very, very close. Grosseto sees him coming, runs out wide round the outside of turn one. Lauderman trying to keep it inside as well. Lawrenson sticks it back up the inside of the next corner, runs him out wide and gets the move stopped and done. And Lauderman opens the door as well, tries to get through. Grosseto will have the run on the outside, gets a little bit loose as they head down towards the hairpin. He has the overspeed though, has Lauderman. Will he get there before they get to the hairpin? It's really difficult to go around the outside here. He's going to have to brave it out. Down the inside goes Grosseto. Lauderman trying to stick it in. It's impossible though to try and go around the outside there unless you are super brave. But now Lauderman has to stay behind Grosseto for a little bit longer. Lawrenson gapping them already. Here comes the move, maybe. Yeah, here it is. Lauderman up the inside of Grosseto. Very close between the both of them. And he just about gets in front. Yes, he does. Grosseto wiggling through that corner. And both of them get through a flash of the lights. as he comes through. That's the universal sign of I disagree with that move, and they get through eventually cleanly. But nice bit of racing there between those guys. Brave stuff from Lawrence to go down the inside of turn 1. You've got to have a lot of trust in the car in front of you to do that.
Yeah, let's get a replay of that, because that was, as far as I could see, all fair, I think. It's a narrow part of the circuit. These cars are big, and I think a car's width was left at all points. That's the big thing. Whether you're on the inside or the outside, you should always be leaving a car's width for whoever you're racing with. And that looks all good as we go to the starts of the lap. So here was how Luritzen originally got past, and this was bold. And I thought that was a bit aggressive, considering that there were 3 wide for a moment there, but because such a wide turn 1, I think Luritzen seeing his opportunity there. Then, of course, it really narrows through that little bit of a kink that you have. And Lotzman just all over the back of Grissetto, who ran wide there, then tries to squeeze his rival out, if anything, just intimidating him, I think, as much as he possibly could. And then this battle continues round the hairpin, but you can see always a car's width being left for either driver. And Lotzman just having the pace in the end was probably going to make the move anyway, but it's very important that he made it as quick as he did, because it enables him to chase after his teammate again. And of course this was where they became particularly close to contact. I think there was a little bit of contact, but you can see Lotzman desperately trying to leave as much space as he could, at least around the kink following.
Yeah, there was a bit of contact, a very small bit of contact in the end, and they managed to get through, thankfully, and that was probably the reason for the small angry flash of lights from Fabio Grissetto right there as they get back to live pictures. And we can see now there is Mork, who has now dropped back behind Sorensen but he did pit, of course, and Paul Klist as well has pitted, so kind of early-ish stops for these guys. They're obviously know that they can get to the end from here. Paul Klist has been running well, as you can see now. That'll be Lewis Araya getting past Daniel Kraft. Now is a 3-second lead over Daniel Subizawa. Lotterman pitting as well. So it seems the P2's coming in early compared to the P1s, which is normally there. Jake Shuri, fastest lap of the race in the P2 AMS. And Grissetto, he's going to have even more trouble now because he's got Pigmans behind him as his next, I suppose, battler. Up behind him he comes, and it seems Grissetto's sort of struggling to hang on. He seems to be kind of sliding around quite a lot as he tries desperately to hang on to positions, but Pigman's closing up to him in this for the past few laps or so, and is now just trying to catch up to the car in front. Lotterman on his way back out of the pit lane, and he's just going to come out right around Josh Lane in the P1. That's a tricky pit exit. It's very, very wide, and you got to be careful as Pigmans does get past Grissetto for P6. Well, Grissetto looks like he's gone off, actually, and there he is. He has gone off, and unfortunately, he manages to rejoin. Looks like no harm done, but all that battling, and I think that was just a case of he's been struggling on the tyres all the way around, and it seems come undone.
Oh, and that's a mistake I always make around this circuit. I'm really bad around this track. It's and I think I may have said this a few times in commentary before, how I don't really believe in good and bad circuits. I think however much practice you put in a circuit, that will pretty much be however fast you are. But I am quite bad at this circuit. I think it is a genuine thing that I'm just not talented around this place. And that was a common mistake, basically. Just pushing a little bit too hard around that corner. You can brake, 2 meters later every single lap, and eventually you go way too wide, and it can be very tricky to get the car stopped. Perry into the pits. He's had a bit of a lonely race out of contact early on in the event. To be fair, I think it was sort of Pay who started it off. He was the car locking up his brakes into turn 2 on lap 1, which wiped out a couple of other drivers. But he is pitting, and he might feature probably around Grissetto later on in the race. He might be able to come back in that battle, along with perhaps Shuri as well. He will be around. At the moment, no battles going on out on circuit with the pit stops taking place. Suvi Sabo 2.6 seconds behind. He just gained though by 0.8 of a second on that last lap. So that brings him slightly back into play. And of course, if he can save a second, well, the fuel, which I think is possible, he was getting a little bit of a draft earlier on. If he can save a second in his pit stall, then maybe he could get into play a little bit more. Could Suvi Sabo this race not over by any means, pretty much matching each other through each of the sectors so far on this lap. We wait to see if Kraft will decide to come in. We're not quite sure how far the fuel can go, probably a little bit further. I think around 36, 37 laps, 36, 37 minutes, apologies, is possible for these P2 cars. And they do go around again. Kraft with the fastest lap of the race, just getting faster and faster are these two.
Yeah, Suvi Sabo set the fastest lap on the previous lap, and Kraft has immediately responded and beaten it by 1/10 of a second. So really, really impressive stuff from these two, sort of, when there were 2/10 between them. Ibram, not bad pace at all either. Personal best of 44.9. That is a very good lap from Ibram, but unfortunately they're just too far back to really challenge these guys up the front. So I think they are close to their pit stop phase for sure. So I think it'll be the next lap or so until we see them in the P1s. Still out there, still going on. So they should also be in quite shortly. So some very overall early stops across the board in the P2s. It'll be interesting to see how that figures itself out later on in the race when we get to sort of the last 10-15 minutes, how that's going to affect. We're on board with Daniel Kraft as he comes through the S section. This you cannot see very much at all when you come through these sections. It's not lit, of course, in this section. Through this is a great section when you get it right. Very bumpy on the entry there, running all the way out to the curve. Very nicely taken there by Daniel Kraft. Then you can this is the chance for you to sort of chill out. And the thing is, you cannot see sunset until you're right on top of it. You see the cones right here, and you've got to trust it. It's completely blind as you enter it. So you're bumping your way through, tight to the pit entry. He comes, it looks like he's going to pit, and he does indeed come in. So Daniel Kraft is in. Does Suvi Sabo carry on? No, he doesn't. So they all both come in at the same time. And the question is, does Suvi Sabo... he had a quicker stop last time, did Suvi Sabo. So I wonder, will that also happen again? And does Ibram has carried on, so he's managed to save an extra lap. Nobody else seems to have.
Yeah, that's impressive there for Ibram, who has been in clean air for the entire stint. So, of everyone, I would have thought Ibram would be the one who would have to come into the pits. Pigman's also able to set another lap. Pigman's has had a fair bit of clean air, but a little bit of draft, I guess. And Shuri also coming into the pits. Will be interesting to see where Shuri comes out in comparison to Mork. His lap times have been good, so I doubt Mork will catch too much. Kraft already coming out of the pits. Suvi Sabo, is that closer? We'll have to wait for them to speed up. I think that's pretty much identical. It was about 2.5 seconds before the pit stop. Well, quite a while time screen. It's down to 1.4 seconds. I'm not sure if I totally trust that. Yeah, apparently it is. So 1.4 seconds, so it has closed in a little bit. The pit stop difference was a second faster for Suvi Sabo, so that's sort of what we kind of thought it might be. So Suvi Sabo will be regretting a couple of mistakes he's made. Let's look at the line there being taken out of the pits by, what's that, Luritzen, or Burke, apologies. Luritzen a little bit further back. Burke out of the pits, however, well ahead of Luritzen. And seemingly everyone having clean pit stops, but Lotzman was very quick in the pit stop, 20.9 seconds. That's really 2 seconds shorter than pretty much everyone else besides Thomas Mork.
Yeah, and in so doing, he's closed back up to Lauritsen in the pit in that pit stop phase. And yeah, Suvi Sabo again with the quicker pit stop that time, and he has done well as Ibram now coming into pit lane, saved an extra full lap of fuel, as has Pigman. So let's see where this brings him out. It should bring him out behind Suvi Sabo and a good chunk in front of Burke, and you can see Pigman's also in. So these guys have managed to go a full extra lap as Lotterman and Lauritsen, they're going to swap by the looks of it as they come down to the next corner. Lotterman in front as they come to the S's, and no real fight put up there. So Lotterman now back in front of Alexander Lauritsen, and they will carry on in their next part. As now we'll see Kraft back to the front. Civizawa also back into second place as well. And Ibram now on his way out of the pit lane. So he is in a comfortable third, but still a big gap up to Daniel Kraft and Daniel Civizawa. But at the same time, he has brought the gap down very, very slightly. Not by much overall, but he has made it work somewhat, as has Pigmans as well. Pigmans has managed to come out in front of Grassetto. Obviously, Perry is now in front of Grassetto as well after all that, and Pigmans has actually managed to now close up a little bit more on Lauritsen and Lotterman, so that has worked out for him. Overall, Ibram, by going that extra lap, has gained, I think, about 2 seconds or so. It's not a massive gain, but even small gains could be useful, even if something were to happen, as you can see how close the teammates are running together.
Yeah, and I am concerned a little bit over Lotsman here with that short pit stop. So if he is pure saving a little bit, then I think we might see a good battle between Lotsman, Lauritsen, Pigmans, maybe even Perry by the end of the race if Perry can close in as Lauritsen. I mean, how can you even drive that close? I mean, yeah, impressive stuff. These guys have been absolutely glued together. Has seemed like Lotsman has been the faster man though. Lotsman, of course, having problems near the start of the race, was, I think, close to about 10 seconds behind Lauritsen at one point, but Lauritsen's just been held up by various drivers for the entire race pretty much so far. And he's feeling it once again, but I do think this time Lotsman should be able to pull away. However, until the draft is broken, Lauritsen will fancy his chances getting a bit of understeer though around the Le Mans section, and we'll have some catching up to do there. Smith coming out of the pits. He is in P5. He's in a bit of a battle with Cathode, I believe. Cathode has still got to pit one more time. And I think before the pit stops, he was about 3 seconds behind Smith. Now, I think Cathode's going to have quite a short pit stop because he took some fuel earlier on. But still, keep an eye on that one. That could be a nice battle for 4th position. 2 drivers who could have been fighting for the race win, obviously, in the P2, and had it not been for issues earlier on.
Yeah, of course, Smith was involved in the lap 1 instance, so he's ended up down there, but he's done well to come back to P5, and maybe still P4 could still be on for him. So now Lotterman, he's still in front of Lauritsen, but hasn't managed to break the draft just yet, so Lauritsen's still sticking with him here. But we'll see if he's able to do that. He seems a little bit stronger in the middle sector compared to Lauritsen at the moment, so we'll see if he's able to use that to his advantage as they come through into the next right-hander. Again, that's a tricky corner. It happened that previous lap for Lotterman. He locked up and went into that corner last lap, and he's done it again on that previous lap, and Lauritsen's now going to have to push him to get back up to speed again. And again, oversteering through the next part, and Lotterman really struggling in this phase. And Lauritsen seems to just have a little bit more settled in behind the car of Lotterman at the moment. So yeah, really struggling with that right-hander. Oh dear, that's Sorensen who has gone around. That looks like on the exit of the hairpin. Hopefully that has been low speed and has carried on. Morten Cafote has pitted and has come out in front of Smith, but not by much. And there's only a couple of seconds between them there. Come round Sunset, Lotterman's still in front, but you have to think, Lauritsen seems a little bit more settled at the moment, and Lotterman seems to be struggling just a tad, so I wonder, will they swap around?
Yeah, and if it weren't for these mistakes from Lotsman, then you would maybe have a chance at catching up to Burke. You consider how far behind he was from Burke earlier on. Like I said, I mean, Lotsman has such a poor start. I think it was like probably 10 seconds, maybe even 15 seconds behind Burke at one point. Whereas now he's only 5, but taking lots of curb there. The car not looking happy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not fast. How are his first couple of sectors like? Well, he's just at his fastest first sector of the lap, of the race, apologies, but I think that's just turn 1 pretty much. His second sector was a little bit sluggish for Lotsman in the 20s, whilst most of his rivals were in the high 19s there. And Lotsman, of course, is teammates with Burke, so not a whole lot of incentive, and of course he's teammates with Lauritsen as well. As long as they beat Pigmans and Perry, that will probably be the main focus for these drivers. Shout out, by the way, to Apex Racing Academy, another one of our sponsors for this series. Apex Racing Academy offering 29 data packs for various cars on iRacing. I personally use the IndyCar data pack, which I'll be racing tomorrow in the Road America event. Cool that is not cancelled due to week 13. That's like how close Perry is right there. That is insanely close to the back of Shuri. But of course, Apex Racing Academy also providing setups for the P2 car, the Formula 4 car. I think the new Mercedes is going to be added. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but certainly a couple of the GT3 cars are covered by Apex Racing Academy, along with lots of others. Rallycross, for example, is also covered on Apex Racing Academy, so do check them out at apexracingac.com in order to get yourself a subscription. And of course, the drivers who win the championships in this series, or the top 3 in the championships, also get a free subscription. So thanks to Apex Racing Academy for providing that. Perry is surely going to be able to pass Shuri. It might be a little bit confusing by the timing board. This may appear like this isn't pole position, but it is pole position, as you can see by the battle box in the bottom corner. Shuri catching up, apologies, Perry catching up to Shuri, and I think this is not going to take too long. He's been held behind him for a lap so far, as of course we saw Perry make contact with another car on lap 1 by running very close to the back of them, and well, he is continuing to do the same, but he is very experienced. Perry, very good driver is Perry, and he's going to try to pull off a very good move as well. Not much defense put up by our P2 AM leader, and Tim Perry moves up into 8th position in the P2 class.
Yeah, I think that was probably a wise move from Shuri there, to just sort of back off a little bit in the corner and give himself some breathing space, because he is still leading the P2 AM category, and he needs the points gain on his championship rival Thomas Mork, who is, well, I mentioned he is catching him, but he's not catching him enough to catch him by the end of the race, unless he starts really reeling it in. But Shuri can't afford to sort of take his foot off or relax, because Thomas Mork is still lapping very quickly. He set his personal best on the previous time by of a 45.0, which is very quick, on par with the leaders in the P2 pros. Actually, very quick time from him there, I think, as Shuri will come across the line now to, so it was a 46.0, sorry, not 45.0, 46.0 for Thomas Mork. It was about 0.6 quicker than Shuri did on that previous time. 47.6 for Shuri that time, and a 47.3 for Mork. So he is doing enough right now to hang on. More than enough, actually. Mork needs to really start catching him at a very high rate to have a chance, but this will be good for the championship. Shuri will now get himself a little bit closer to Thomas Mork and can really start putting a fight on. Morten Kafud, he mentioned he did pit again, and he did only just come out in front of Harley Smith. That gap is about 2 seconds between Kafud and Smith, so still a chance for Smith to get P4, but he hasn't been able to get up to the back of Kafud just yet. But that battle will still go, I think, to the end. Kafud's managed to hang on and keep that position from Harley Smith, who's done well to get himself back up into the top 5 in category, and it's still Daniel Kraft at the front, in front of Sivi Zaba, and on that lap by, he was a full second quicker than his teammate, which is very interesting. Daniel Kraft very much in control of today, and doesn't seem like he's going to be displaced just yet, and maybe may continue to extend his championship lead out front, and he would have won every single race except one, which was Le Mans last week. So a really impressive record being carried on, which I think may also be carried on by Loki Brown, because the only race he didn't win was Daytona, if I'm right in saying that.
You are, and that race he didn't turn up for. So really, he's got a 100% record so far. The season has Brown and a minute clear. I mean, he's just Vegas, isn't he? And it's important to make that clear, that Brown would be at the top of any class as he decided to set his sights on. Would be awesome to see him tackle maybe the GT3s. Ooh, as we got a
Oh,
Raya, and that is at the hairpin, going straight on. Surprisingly slow that. Sometimes you kind of outbrake yourself and you think, oh, I'll just take the escape route, and then you realise you've just lost like 5 seconds and got a slowdown. It's weirdly slow. Is this escape route? Do you pick up some grass on entry? No?
no.
That's an odd one, just carried too much speed seemingly. And there's that video online. I may have said this to you before actually, Jack, but it's a video of a guy who loses his brakes and goes through a gate, basically. If you go straight on at that corner, goes through a gate, and then he just like drives around the surroundings of Sebring for a bit with no brakes, and tries to get the car stopped in a car park. It's surprisingly entertaining for a 8-minute video. I recommend checking it out. Just search Sebring gates and brake failure, and yeah, should come up. Unfortunately, iRacing don't model that stuff, but I would love them to. I think I brought this up last week actually, how modeling all the escape routes and stuff would be absolutely lovely from iRacing.
Yeah, we did have this discussion last week. So iRacing, if you're listening, can you add the gate, please, at the end of the Sebring escape road, so we can reenact the brake failure in that. So but yeah, Lucky Brown, as you mentioned out front, he is very, very good. And if we look back, it's interesting, I suppose, as Smith does pass Kafode. He's eventually managed to catch him and pass him. So that's a battle for position. Yep, there it is. Smith is in front of Kafode. And it looks like it was made down in turn 1. Smith's done well to get back to 4th there.
Yeah, he really has. Did well not to quit, as well, they're almost taking the alternative pits there. If you swing right down that straight, some hard defense, but Smith just has so much more entry speed and able to get past. And will be fascinating to see where Smith finishes in the remaining rounds. He's not going to win the championship, but he could still be a thorn in the side of Shuriam and Mork, should we see him for the remaining 5 rounds of this championship. Of course, if you want to be on the grid, sign up. Go to apexracingleague.com, sign up for the final 5 rounds. It's a discounted price because you just have to pay for the final 6 rounds in order to enter. So it should be £18 plus VAT to enter the rest of the championship. So if you want to enter the grid, do that. We've also got a couple more events coming up on Apex Racing League. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, there are probably slots available, but if you're watching this back, slots have probably already been filled for the Apex Racing League GT3 trophy. About 60 drivers are going to be on the grid for that next Tuesday. So that will be very fun. So probably don't enter that one, but we have got our Super Trucks special event on Sunday. The best car track combination, Hockenheim Short A and the Pro 2 light truck. Trust us on this one. It is the greatest thing of all time. We've also got our F4 championship as well. Really good grid in that. 45 drivers signed up for that championship. We've got the heat racing format, the elimination heat racing format. That's on Saturday evening. So if you go to apexracingleague.com, you can sign up to any of those series. Check out our Discord as well. There's a link to that in the description below. So whenever we announce a series, you can see it go live. We're going to have some very exciting series, I think, happening for the rest of 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we mention it every week, the Super Trucks, but yeah, do trust us. Hockenheim Short A. If you don't believe us, go watch the championship race from there from last year. Just the most amazing. It shouldn't be that good, but it is.
We got 25 drivers signed up actually, but I don't think all of them will turn up. But I think if we can get 20 on the grid, my God, it's going to be the greatest race ever.
Yeah, and that's not even an exaggeration. It just will be the greatest race of all time. Because the thing with obviously with the Super Trucks, we're going to have no off tracks enabled or anything like that, so you can take whatever line you want. And the beauty of Hockenheim is that you can completely ignore the last corner, cut across the grass. There's a big jump in the middle of the grass as well, which is very, very entertaining. So yeah, don't miss that on Sunday. You will be very much entertained. You know, who needs the Azerbaijan Grand Prix anyway? You know, so you got super trucks instead. But Daniel Kraft out the front. So we got about 7 minutes left, and he's now nearly 6 seconds clear of Daniel Sivizalwas. I think we're pretty clear on who has got the pace today, and it's Daniel Kraft once again on course to extend the championship lead. Daniel Sivizalwa again, good points in the bag, but not quite enough just yet to catch his teammates. And looking here, Morka's again closed in a little bit on Shuri, but it's just not enough really to trouble him. Shuri is very comfortable where he is. And Loki Brown, well, he's just doing Loki Brown things. He's 1 minute and 13 seconds clear of Lewis Araya. And, well, to be fair to Lewis, he's the only other LMP1 on the lead lap. So he's done well there, as Lewis Araya, considering he did go down an escape road as well in that one. And it's a bit of a shame because Lewis, I think, was the closest to Loki Brown on pace anyway. So he maybe could have done something to trouble Loki Brown, even just keep him stay in his mirrors or something, but not quite. It's interesting because Loki's obviously dominating at the front here. I think back maybe 2 seasons he was in the P1 AM category when we had the P1 Pros and P1 AMs, and we had some. I would love to see the guys from the P1 Pro category coming back into this title fight, because the battles at the front of the P1 Pros about 2 seasons ago was absolutely fantastic, and Loki's pace has obviously improved a lot since then. So I'd love to see those guys come back, and we could have a really, really interesting fight up the front. But that's not to be just yet. Loki Brown is doing what he needs to do, and he's very much going to bring himself back into title contention, and all it took was 2 rounds to do so.
Yeah, and he will, in fact, be at the top of the championship, I think. I think there are some bonus points going the way of the current championship leader, but I imagine Brown's got a few bonus points himself on the 0 incidents, so should help him out quite a bit. There is a gap coming down a bit. Lotzman is now within 1.5 seconds of Burke. Now, they are teammates. But Lotzman is catching, well, in that last lap it was just a 10th, but Burke has had a weird race. Remember, Burke was really close to Ibrahim for most of this race, and then lost a lot of time in the pit stops, and since then he's continued to lose time in the pit stops. But you can see Lotzman really consistent, and then it's Burke who's actually the one who has been up and down. That 2 laps ago in the mid 46s on that last lap with a very solid 45.7, so it's sort of in the hands of Burke, and I think this is going to be another strong lap actually. I think they're pretty much matching each other. Lotzman, does he put in just as strong a lap as he has been? A little bit slower, and he does close in a bit on Burke. But if Burke can keep up these strong lap times that he's produced on the last couple of tours of the circuit, he should be safe. And of course Lotzman, you'd think, will not be too risky, but it's a shame that we didn't see Lotzman, honestly, maybe even battling with Siri Sabu, I think, tonight. He has had very good pace after that 4-lap 1. Qualified low down as well. And he would have certainly been ahead of Ibrahim and Burke if it weren't for that. But he's pushing hard, a little bit of opposite lock. Hitting, well, slightly away from the apex there, but still carried good speed. Has lost a little bit of time though on this lap, 1.5 seconds. He needs to absolutely ace these final 3 laps in order to get a top 4 finish.
Absolutely, you can see he is pushing on, and, really aggressive on the throttle inputs, as you can see, using the relying on the traction control to kick in at the right time. You don't want to kick for it to kick in too much. That would be a huge loss of time if that does happen. As he heads down towards the S section again, you got Loki Brown coming in the inside. He got a little bit loose. That could have ended badly if these two hadn't seen each other, but. A little bit loose over the curb there for Lotterman, and you can see very huge chunk of oversteer coming through there again. But he's lost a lot of time right there. Gap is out to 2 seconds now, so I think Burke may be safe from Lotterman. I think he's just pushing a tiny bit too hard on that previous lap, and has now dropped off the back slightly. There's still time to go though. Crossing the line, this Lucky Brown's crossing the line with about a couple of minutes to go. Probably about 2 laps. I think he may just make it for 2 laps here. in this one as he comes through turn 1. You got to be brave through there. You got to hug the inside. He's run out way too wide there and carries on, thankfully. Thankfully, the P2, you can do that, but you have to be very, very gentle on the throttle now. He is pushing very hard, but I think perhaps pushing a little bit too hard.
Very accomplished driver Jackie Lotzman as Mork has caught up to Grassetti. Now, I hadn't spotted this one, if I'm honest, but Grassetti's just lost 1.5 seconds on that last tour. He has had, it was a really good start for Grassetti, and then he's lost quite a few places since then, and he's been caught by Mork, who's round the outside. Can he make this move stick? He's almost making contact there. Grassetti not giving up 1 inch, however. He might get on the curb, which would affect his run, Mork, but he still manages to get the move done side by side around the narrowest part of the Sebring International Circuit. And Mork is up a place, but back comes Grassetti. Can the Italian respond immediately? Mork left himself a bit vulnerable there, and Grassetti is got his nose just ahead. Now it will be Mork with the slipstream, will be able to generate a bit of momentum. Will he go up the inside like we saw earlier on with Lotzman? Not on that occasion, and that was good racecraft there from Grassetti, but he does seem to be struggling. Was strong for the first sort of 20 minutes of this race, Grassetti, but he has really struggled since then. And I think Mork, honestly, I would put him as the favourite with a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, that was such an impressive move around the outside of turn 2. That is one of the hardest places to overtake on the track, and he's managed to make it work. A fair play to Grassetto, who left him a car's width. Lucky Brown's just crossed the line, so we are on the final lap of the race right now. So there's not many opportunities left for Mork to get past. There's the defensive move from Grassetto. It's going to have to be around the outside of Sunset if Mork wants to get this one down to the braking zone. You have to be brave here if you want to do that. He's going to try to get the over-under on the exit of Sunset. It's the perfect corner to do so. Grassetto out wide, down towards the line they come again. This will be his last opportunity to do it. Around the outside of turn 1, can he be even more brave? Can he make this work around the outside of turn 1? No, Grassetto hanging the inside, may run out a little bit wide. No, not quite. Mork now trying to get it done this time the inside. He almost gets into the back of Grassetto. How did they not collide into there? Mork going to try to stick it up the inside of turn 4 then. Grassetto keeps it in around the outside, and they carry on for another few corners. Down towards the hairpin they go again. As they come up to the hairpin, Grassetto with the inside, Mork stuck on the outside again. He has the overs, but he won't have the line. Going to try and get the over-under done. Grassetto's going to shut him out, just leave him without any room to go. What a brilliant battle between these two as they come up to the line again to try and fight it out. Round to the right-hander they go. Late on the brakes, Mork not quite great stuff from Grassetto. Well, meanwhile, you want to talk about domination. There it is. Loki Brown wins in Sebring by nearly 1 minute and 20 seconds and is now leading the championship, we think, going into the next round. Great stuff. Absolute pure domination from Loki Brown. Brilliant drive. Ibram crossed the line for 3rd place in P2 Pro. And we're going to get the tail end of a few drivers. We still have a ways to go here. Mork and Grassetto are still going at it here as they come on to the last straight. It is going to go to the line between these two. Grassetto defensive towards Sunset. What's Mork going to do here? We'll come back in just a moment. Jake Shuri, that is a big win for him. He wins in Sebring and P2 AM. And we'll now close up to Mork as they come now to the last corner. Mork's on the inside of Sunset. Absolutely neck and neck to the line. Mork's going to just get in front. Dizzy absolutely side by side over the line. I think it was just about Grassetto. It was very, very close. What a brilliant fight. Hats off to the two of them. Mork, anyway, gets 2nd in class and just about, I think, managed to stay in front at the end of that. I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah, it was Mork by a couple of thousandths across the line. Really close. He did manage to get him. Lewis Araya is going to get P2 in class. I think he's going to be happy with that. Nonetheless, as they come round the final corner, he's going to get 2nd. We're still waiting for Kraft to cross the line, I think. Well, here he comes, and he's going to now extend his lead. Daniel Kraft with the P2 Pro win in Sebring, and his teammate Daniel Civizabo across the line for yet another 2nd place. But, well, fair play to Thomas Mork and Fabio Grassetto. That might be one of the best battles I've actually seen in P2s. That was brilliant.
That was really good. And I don't know if you misspoke or maybe the time screen was different on your end, but it was actually Grosseto ahead of Mork in all of that one. So Grosseto, I think, held on by about half a tenth of a second. So excellent work. And yeah, it would be good to get a replay of that one, particularly that move into Sunset Bend. But really, the whole final 2 laps were, on the most part, those two locked with each other side by side. And of course, there was a little bit of contact as well on the run to line. I wonder if that was decisive, maybe compromised Mork's momentum a little bit just with that slight friction between the two of them. But, well, was a very well-earned 9th place in class. Wow, look how close they were. Mork managed to get up the inside then. Grosseto didn't cover it off all the way. And then Mork understeering out wide. That's so impressive because they're both on the bumps there. And then you have that contact. And I think it may have been that contact which got it for Grosseto. Seemed to unstable Mork a little bit more. But that's so impressive. Over the bumps. They haven't been driving over those bumps for the entire race. They're both offline. And yet they both managed to keep control of their car. And I think it was all fair and square on that run to the line. And yeah, one of the battles of the season, I'm sure. And I'm sure they were both very happy at the end of that race. I think probably will hopefully see that battle reignited later on in the season. So we should be able to bring you your final results then for this round of the championship. Final shout out as well to Virtual Racing School just before we go to those results. Virtual Racing School offering 50 plus data packs for road and oval racing. Those data packs including setups, track guides, data analysis, and one-on-one coaching. So big thanks to them for helping us out on Apex Racing TV and Apex Racing League. Lucky Brown, winner by, well, 88 seconds over Luis Araya. Josh Lane was in 3rd place, Hilner Wilhelmsen in 4th. Top of the P2s once again, taking back that top step on the podium. 3 wins out of 4 now for Daniel Kraft ahead of his teammate Daniel Civisabe. James Ibram with a very strong 3rd place. I mean, I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to stay up there. Really good qualifying for him. But Ibram, top of the Apex Tech Racing drivers in the end, ahead of his teammate Burke. Lotzman wasn't able to catch up at the end, even though it looked like he was going to catch by the end. Burke was able to cut out the errors in those final few laps. Then it was Loritzen, the final Apex Tech driver. Then it was Pigmans. Perry up to contacts on lap 1. Shuri was top of the AMs. Amazing, I think that's Jake Shuri's first amateur win of the season, and he really needed it if he was going to catch up to Thomas Mork in the championship. Grosseto beat Mork by half tenth of a second, and then it was Sorensen, Smith. Cathode was in 18th, and Clister and Marks rounded out the drivers. Everyone scores points. Oh no, actually, I'm not sure if Marks did score points. No, I don't think Marks scores points. That is a thing that we are changing in the rules, where you can be 3 laps down and still score points, but I think it's 2 laps down in order to score points. I think Marks was 3 laps down, so I feel bad for him there. Yeah, everyone else scores points at least, so it was good on the most part for all the drivers, as we should get some interviews with a couple of the drivers. And I think first up, well, I'll let you take first dibs. Jack, who would you like to have a chat with?
Yeah, well, since he's perfectly on our screens here, let's have a chat with our man who took 3rd place in the P2 Pros. James Ibram is in the box with me. James, it looks like a pretty strong race from yourself right there. Managed to go an extra lap on fuel compared to everyone else, and solid result.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the result. I mean, it's a bit annoying that Pure Sims are that far ahead, but if I'm being realistic, if 6 months ago, based on my pace in a league with them guys in it, I would have been 8/10ths off in qualifying, not 2. So I think the pace is slowly coming, but might not even show this season. But at least this was a positive run out for myself, at least.
Yeah, you mentioned Pure Sims up the front there. What do you think you need to do to get a little bit closer to them in the race?
If I hadn't have made so many mistakes in the first 6 laps, I might have been a bit closer, but I'm not sure how much of a difference that would have really made. I think they were on average about 6 or 7 tenths a lap quicker, which I'm not sure could have made up in that time. A bit of more practice might have helped. The setup we were using, I developed in about 2 hours before the race, and I think it was good, but it wasn't perfect and could have done with a few tweaks to improve it further. So I don't know. Maybe at a stronger track it will be a bit closer.
Yeah, well, we are off. We're staying stateside. We're going to Watkins as the next round. What's the thoughts heading in there?
I don't particularly like that circuit, but I'm looking forward to when it goes back to Europe, if I'm honest. I don't know. I think it will be interesting, Watkins, because there's a lot of drafting, so it could be quite close racing. But again, if the two in Pure Sims just break away again, then I see it being a hard time beating them, to be honest.
Well, you can always hold out hope. But James, before we let you off, is there anyone you'd like to give a quick thank you to or a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd love to give a shout out to the team, and obviously Alex, Matthias, and Jackie for just joining in and making it quite a nice event for us. Obviously, all our sponsors: Meridian, TPI, Pro Simrig, and Apex Tech Racing Supply.
Well, James, congratulations on your third place, and we'll see you next time at Watkins.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.
So that was James Ibram, who joined us in the box there. Very happy with his third place, and well, thankfully, compared to last week, Sam, there's actually drivers for us to talk to this time.
Exactly, they're a bit more chatty. Luis Araya joins us in the comms box now. Congratulations, Luis. Second position in the P1s. Seemed like quite a comfortable race for yourself. You managed to avoid the incidents on lap 1. We saw you go long at the hairpin one time, but besides that, it seemed to be a very smooth drive.
Yeah, and besides that, first turn on lap 1 was pretty okay. I feel very bad for Williamson that I dragging with me, but yeah, I hope his race went good. Yeah, it was maybe a little bit of practice until Sunday's super trucks, maybe, but I was a little bit ahead of myself there.
You're not ahead of yourself whatsoever. I mean, well, one more question, then we'll get onto the super trucks because, yeah, I mean, how is the LMP1? I mean, how have you found it across these first 4 races? Is there anything that you've learnt about the Porsche so far this season?
I love to drive the LMP1s. It's a shame that not more people drives it because it's a very fun car to drive. And yeah, it's when you're boosting the car is just madness. Just you just need to hold on. So yeah, pretty shame that we don't have more LMP1s on this league, but maybe in next round out.
Yeah, hopefully we maybe pick up 1 or 2 as the season goes on. And now
Yeah.
to the super trucks. That's the race that we all care about. Have you got much practice in so far?
Actually, nothing more than the first turn with the LMP1s now. So yeah, pretty looking forward to on Sunday.
Definitely. I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
My team and Stian Solberg. Shame he didn't manage to get home on time today, but I'm pretty sure he's joining us next week. And the guys that are watching the stream, and of course you guys that broadcasted everything.
Well, thank you very much, Luis, and we will see you back next week.
We'll see you back next week and see you on Sunday.
Luis Araya there. You'll be battling myself in the Super Truck special events on Sunday. Maybe, I mean, if he finishes P2 to me on Sunday like he did today, that would be a great effort. I mean, yeah, that'd be really impressive from him. But we will see. Jack, I think we've got time for one more interview.
Yep, there's only one more person. There's only one more person left, so we'll have a chat with him. Josh Lane joins me in the comms box now. Josh, third place. I know there wasn't many people on the grid, but I think even getting across the line was the aim.
Yeah, it wasn't really wasn't really an easy race for me, to be honest. I had internet issues. The router fell down in the other room before the race started, so I had to quickly go fix that. I was pretty stressed. But yeah, so I didn't get much practice in. But yeah, lap one was a bit of a mess. But that was my own fault, and then I had a few incidents elsewhere. But I managed to keep in front of Wilhelmsen, and yeah, we had roughly the same pace. So it was still a challenge to keep him, well, to make sure he doesn't catch up. But yeah, otherwise it's a pretty fun race, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously Sebring really good, but I think we're going to Watkins Glen as the next round. So how do you think the Porsche and yourself are going to go around there?
Well, I'm already practicing for the 6 hours of the Glen in the P2, so the Porsche and me, my favorite racing car. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's an easy and tricky track at the same time. There's some technical sections where, especially with my setup, where I don't have a wide FOV, I can't really see the exit of the corner. So I need to make sure that I learn that as quick as I can, because that will definitely play a role in me having pace. Yeah. But hopefully it goes well. I'll definitely practice a lot.
Yeah, and just finally, obviously we're now obviously over halfway this season. How have you found it so far?
Um, well, luck hasn't really been on my side. Then again, I also haven't really added to that. Yeah, it's been all right. I'm surprised it hasn't gone worse for me. Since I don't have a lot of time to practice. But overall, I really enjoy the P1. It's a great car to drive, especially getting on that boost button to get past lap cars. No, it's really enjoyable. Good season, good racing. Yeah, overall really good.
Great stuff. Before we let you off, Josh, is there anyone who'd like to give a quick shout out to or thank you to?
Oh yeah, I'd like to shout out the Grip Masters that race on GT7. They got me into some racing overall and league racing, and it's been a long journey. They still support me from their side of from their side of the world, which is Portugal. So yeah, big shout out to them for having my back all the time. Yeah, and Top Down Motorsports, which is my team that I race for. Yeah, they also support me and help me out with questions I have about the P1. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, Josh, we'll hopefully see you next time at Watkins Glen, and congratulations on your third place today.
Thank you very much.
So that was Josh Lane, and that is perfectly got us to the end of the broadcast.
Yes, yes it has. We are so punctual, aren't we? Quick word though, Jack, on Watkins Glen. Next time out, I know we had one Joe there who did not like Watkins Glen, but for the first time in a while, we are actually going to a circuit that I like. What are your thoughts on that circuit? I imagine in Crates types, it must be a lot of fun with those high-speed bends.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring a surprise. Honestly, I think it's going to be good. I also do like Watkins in a sense. It is good fun in GT cars. I've never done it in a prototype because I've always been concerned with GT cars, but obviously we're not going to have that problem in next week unless you're driving a P1, of course. But I don't think it's going to be the same extent. I think it's going to be fun. There is opportunities for overtaking. It's going to be a little bit tight, but I think anybody who I think it is going to be about qualifying as well. I think it's going to be very, very important when we get over there. And of course, there will be guys who are obviously practicing, like you mentioned, like Josh, who are practicing for the next special event, the Watkins 6 hours. So I think there will be guys who put a lot of hours into the track, so it should make it good.
Yeah, might jumble up the field a little bit if guys have already done a few hours of practice for that one. So yeah, should be a good race. Of course, that'll be same time on Apex Racing TV next week. Of course, lots of other events coming up tomorrow. We've got the F4s, my favourite series to, well, I think the most entertaining series I think we have on the channel, in my opinion, because I just really like the format. So watch that one. That should be 40 odd F4 cars tackling Donington, so you don't want to miss that. Then we've also got the 3.5s on on Saturday as well. We have got the Spec Racer Ford runoffs. Now, I think that's like 2 races going on. I think it's like the F4s and the Spec Racer 4s. I'm not sure. You should watch it though. I think it's 2 races jumbled into one. Cool format. It's like their Week 13 special event. And on Tuesday, we have got the first round of the Apex Racing League GT3 Trophy. We're going to have 60 cars on the grid at Silverstone. It's going to be absolutely mental. There's further stuff going on Apex Racing TV as well, of course. So like this video so that you're more likely to get recommended our videos in the future, and it also helps us on the algorithm, of course. And also subscribe to the channel so you can see whenever we go live. Also click that notification button as well so you get alerted whenever a broadcast starts. Check out our social media pages as well on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Big thanks to Apex Racing Academy, to SDK Gaming and to Virtual Racing School for sponsoring this broadcast. And, well, pretty much from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Jack Canan, from John Robertson, we are going to bid you farewell. And we'll see you back next week at Watkins Glen. See you then.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.